All right, so my car broke down last night. Nothing stupid, nothing silly. Is serious. Basically, the electronic brake is locked on, so the vehicle can't move. And of course, it broke down after training when I was tired. I had to sit in the car park at Coles for like 2 hours. Then the tow truck driver had a lot of issues getting it onto the tow truck because the wheels wouldn't move and it was in a tight space. Anyway, it was like a whole thing. So it gets towed to the nearest Mazda service centre because that's what the roadside assistance does. We got to leave the keys, we can't find the key dropped. So we had to go back this morning. Fortunately, they were just opening when we were there, so we actually got to speak to them and they're going to look at it and give me a call sometime today. But it did start me thinking something, and just, I think it's important. These are the things that I wish I had known before I owned a vehicle. All right, so it's a few days later now, and thankfully my car is back. It wasn't anything major. I have electronic braking in my vehicle, and it was just the button that you press on and off for the handbrake. Something like a little switch or some sort of spark, something just died, and they just needed to replace it. Seriously, it took longer for the part to come in from Melbourne than it did for them to fix it. It basically came in, it was meant to come in on Wednesday, now it's Thursday, and it came in today. And seriously, within the hour it was repaired. It picked it up, car's going great. So I am so happy. It was so simple to fix. I will be completely honest, I have been very, very blessed when it comes to cars. I didn't get my license until my early 20s. I didn't really have a need for it until then. I was sort of living at home or I'd be out competing, and so I just didn't do a lot of driving myself. But when I decided that I sort of wanted to move to Brisbane, and I'd obviously need a car to get around because public transport in Brisbane is not super reliable, I did get my license. And then I took a job that gave me a company car, and it had unlimited personal use. Although granted, on top of that, I was very upfront about how I was using the car. So for instance, if I was going like down the coast to, compete, or if I was going interstate and I planned to park it at the airport, I would let the company know. So yeah, I had that for a number of years. And then when I decided to move on from that job, my parents actually brought me a car. They'd brought my brother a car when he first got his license. I'd just gotten my license, then moved away. So I'd never gotten the car that my parents would have given me. So I had that. That did get written off. A gentleman ran through a stop sign and caught me on the side of it. And that was also around about the time when, like, my dad had been saying to me, the car is probably getting to an age where anything that goes wrong with it, it would just be cheaper to buy a new one. So I had already been sort of thinking about buying my own car, and this sort of just sped up that process. So I took the agreed price, put it down as the deposit, and paid off the rest of my first car. And then that had some issues, which we'll talk about later in the vehicle, and I ended up with the vehicle I have now. But having obviously now brought 2 vehicles of my own and seen my friends go through vehicles, I guess my first piece of advice to you is buy a car that suits your lifestyle, not your image. So it might seem pretty obvious, but if you are a person that goes off-road a lot and that's something you enjoy as a hobby, don't go and buy a Suzuki Swift. You're gonna have a bad time, I assure you. That is not what a Suzuki Swift is designed for. Now that's a pretty extreme example, but you'd be surprised the number of my friends that have, had really good jobs and have brought themselves like their dream car or a car that they think represents their personality, and then it just doesn't work in their everyday life. I'm just astounded by it. I actually used to work with a girl, and she brought a little, coupe hatchback, not a hatchback thing, like one of those things that take the roof off. And she absolutely loved it, and she thought it was her dream car. But the reality is that it had such a small back seat, she couldn't really take people anywhere. And then because when the roof folded back, it folded back into the boot, there was like no boot space. So she went on holidays and she wanted to put the car roof down. There was kind of, not a lot of room left in the boot then. So you definitely should really sit down when you go to buy a car and think about how you use the car on a day-to-day basis and how you would use it long term. So if on a day-to-day basis you just run around in the city, but every other month you might do a really long run up the coast, say to go to a holiday house or go away and see family or stuff like that, then you probably want to look at a car that will take that extra mileage. Now, not to pick on the Suzuki Swift, but those cars really are designed to just run around short distances. So if you did buy a Suzuki Swift, you'd probably be fine with it on a day-to-day basis, but going up the highway, you might have a few issues in terms of they're quite a light, there's not a lot of vehicle to them, so you might get blown around a little bit on the highway. And I say that from experience. My mum's car went in for repair many years ago, and they gave us a Suzuki Swift as the hire vehicle, and honestly a truck would go past us on the road and we thought we were going to get blown off the highway. So those are just, just consider how you're going to use your vehicle on a day-to-day and long-term basis. All right. So my second piece of advice in buying a vehicle is tied very closely to the first one. So you've looked at how you will use a vehicle in your everyday life and sort of more long-term. And you've decided, okay, so for instance, for me, I was like, I would like a hatchback, but not the smallest one, maybe a mid-range one. So you've done that. So then you should really sit down and do some research on what's on the market. And I'm really serious about this. Every car and every vehicle brand will have its quirks, and you need to know those going into it so that you know if you can deal with them. So generally speaking, a really great place to start would be your RACQ, your RACV. They do annual reviews on vehicles. They tell you in the price range, in the body type, that sort of stuff. They'll talk about, value for money, things to look out for, long-term issues, that sort of stuff. You should also look at things like wheels. They obviously have their Wheels Car of the Year. That's an Australian thing, but I'm sure there would be a car magazine in just about every country that reviews vehicles annually. So yeah, definitely do that. And then from that, really get on the internet and search the vehicles. Look at what they're saying on car forums, on Reddit, because cars have issues. It's just a fact of owning a car. A car will have an issue somewhere along the line. My first car was a Fiesta Sport, and the Bluetooth never worked in it correctly. You honestly would go for 6 months and not have an issue, and then for 6 weeks the Bluetooth just wouldn't sync or connect to anything. So it was really frustrating. I wish I had known that up front. I would not have gone for the Fiesta up that, because one of the big things why I upgraded from my Yaris to my Fiesta was the Yaris was the model before they introduced Bluetooth as a standard. It was an add-on, and given that I was under 25 when my parents brought me that car, insuring the vehicle was already expensive enough, so I really only got a basic model. So I wanted that, and my mum got sick shortly after I brought the Fiesta, and that meant that, when my Bluetooth wasn't working, it meant that anytime I was in the car, if someone needed to reach me urgently, I couldn't take the call because the Bluetooth wasn't working. I had to pull over and take the call, which is not always possible. So if I had done this sort of research, I would have known that, and I probably would not have brought the vehicle. Another really good spot to look is also in Australia, if a car is recalled, there's a website that lists all the recalls and that. Just Google Australian vehicle recalls and you can get a list of all the recent ones. That's a particularly good spot to look if you are looking at buying a second-hand car, because you can then check to see if the recall has actually been performed. So for instance, the Takata airbags, we're now at a stage where I think from the start of next year, if you haven't had your airbags replaced, because it's been 2 or 3 years, your vehicle's actually not roadworthy, you won't be able to register and insure it. But yeah, you do want to double check that that's been performed, and all you'll need to do is take the VIN in, give the dealership or give the brand of the car a call. They'll look it up and tell you if the recall has been performed. And if it hasn't, I would suggest not buying it. But the other thing you can glean from that website is if the vehicle model you're looking to buy isn't there, look and see if there's a pattern. So you'll probably see on these sorts of websites that particular brands have particular kinds of problems that get repeated, as models go on. So you'll need to decide if that's something you're happy to deal with. But definitely do your research, know what potentially could happen to your vehicle if you buy it. Okay, so another really good piece of advice is once you've brought your car, you've driven it off the lot, definitely would be go home and read through all the paperwork. So basically what you want to do is you want to know what sort of warranty you have and what you need to do to maintain the warranty. So my car is a Mazda 3. I have a 5-year unlimited warranty. So that means that it doesn't matter how many kilometres I travel within the 5 years, if something under warranty, it's covered. Now, to maintain that warranty, I have to get the vehicle serviced every 10,000 kilometres. I have to make sure that they only use authorised parts in it, which is a very fancy way of saying only use Mazda branded parts or whatever Mazda would recommend. And I have to make sure that the vehicle is registered and roadworthy at the time. I have an additional caveat on my warranty because I did take out a small loan to upgrade the sound system. So because I do have that loan, my vehicle also has to be fully insured. So I can't just have third party, I have to have comprehensive. So that's fine. And then the other things that you'll most likely have tacked onto a warranty will be things like you're not using the vehicle for any sort of illegal purpose. Mostly they talk about drag racing, but it means the vehicle's not being used illegally, you're still covered. And then the other thing is you must drive it sensibly. Trust me, a lot of people think that, they'll never know if I drive it too fast or go speeding around the corner. My dad's a mechanical engineer and he assures me they know if you drive your car in an unsafe manner. They know once they put that hood up what you've been doing. So yeah, I will just say one of the things that did also come with my Mazda's warranty was fixed price servicing. I personally don't get my vehicle serviced by Mazda, and that's because it's fixed priced at $400 for 5 years. Now that might seem great because you know that, okay, every 10,000 kilometers I need to front up $400, but how fixed price servicing works is they take the average life of the vehicle and the average cost of maintaining it, and then they just divide it out. So your first few services are really nothing. They're just like oil changes and checking to make sure everything's in working order. So in all reality, it's $100, maybe $150 to service it, but you're paying $400. But, later on, that's really when you get your value. So you have to decide really if you're happy to front that up. I'm pretty certain, and I didn't read the full terms and conditions of my fixed price servicing, but you need to start it. Like I can't for 3 years have it serviced elsewhere and then come back and have the fixed price servicing. It's sort of like all in to get it. But you can take it elsewhere. You just do have to make sure that they do, as I said earlier, use official parts, and whatever Mazda would put in, they do that. And look, honestly, if you make that clear to them and they say they're doing it, and then you go for a warranty claim and you get declined because they didn't use the official parts, then that's on the person who did the vehicle. So you would just need to talk to them about it because they should cover you. All right, so my next piece of advice that I wish I'd known when I bought a car is that if something goes wrong, you are actually entitled to a second opinion. Now, even if it's being repaired under warranty, you can have another dealership of the same brand check it out because that will honour your warranty. Or if it looks like you'll be paying out of pocket, it is definitely worth it to get a second opinion. And make sure that you take the original quote to the secondary place so that they can explain to you either why theirs will be more expensive or more cheaper. Now, I will be honest with you, if you do go down this path, and it is a difficult path to go down because if you're towed to a dealership of the company of the car that you've got, the brand of the car you've got, it's hard to go against the experts, and they are the experts. That's more than likely all they work on, that kind of car, so they do know. But if you're looking at being out of pocket, or if they're looking at declining you under warranty, it is really worth it to get a second opinion. Yes, you might have to pay to tow it somewhere else, or you might have to take time out of your day to go to another place. But if they're giving you the same information about what's wrong and it's two vastly different prices, you really, it might be worth it. I was really lucky this time when my handbrake got stuck on. It was basically just fixed under warranty. So for me personally, it wasn't worth getting a second quote because I wasn't going to be paying out of pocket. And with Mazda Assist, which is what the vehicle was towed under, if the car had been off the road for any longer, I would have been entitled to a higher vehicle. So not getting a second opinion in my instance, was worth it. But if I was looking at being declined because they felt that I hadn't been caring for the vehicle, I would definitely have paid and had the car towed to another Mazda dealer to have them check it. All right, so the last piece of advice I wish I'd known before I'd brought a car is that It's unfortunate, but eventually something's going to go wrong with your car. It totally sucks, and it will more than likely happen at the most inappropriate time, say like in a Coles car park at 7 o'clock at night after a long day and an absolutely massive training session, and then you gotta wait 3 hours for a tow. But I digress. But you know, at the end of the day, your car is a machine, and it is a machine that you probably use the most in your life, and it travels through all different conditions, terrains, and you know, something's just going to go wrong. But the good news is, if you're really looking after your car, if you're getting it serviced regularly and you're doing everything you need to do to keep the warranty there, if it's still in warranty, it will more than likely be covered by warranty. But if your vehicle is older or it's out of warranty, if you are getting it serviced regularly, you'll get a heads up on these things. A decent mechanic will tell you, this is aging, this is starting to happen, we notice this, or at this age the car is likely to start doing this. So therefore you can take steps to prevent it happening out of the blue or becoming such a big problem that it is just so insanely expensive to fix. But I'm so sorry, something will go wrong with your car eventually. All right, so that's gonna be it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you learned something, or at the very least it got you thinking about the way you would manage your own vehicle, or you are currently managing your vehicle. Comment down below anything you wish you'd known before you brought your first car, or anything I forgot. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you all again in my very next video.